Hi, welcome back to the channel. In today's episode, I want to talk to you about a really interesting development in the war in Ukraine, as Ukraine is now using its drone warfare to target fertilizer production facilities inside Russia. And this is significant because up until now, most of the focus has been on oil, gas, and military infrastructure. But what we're now seeing is a clear shift towards targeting Russia's broader economic engine. And this has multiple implications: economic, industrial, agricultural, all of which create further problems for Russia. But before we get into the details of all of that, can I ask anyone that hasn't subscribed yet to please hit that subscribe button? It really helps me with the algorithm, also puts a smile on my face. So let's start about talking about the strikes that we know about so far, because this isn't just one isolated incident. We've now seen multiple confirmed attacks. The first report came in early April, when a vessel in the Sea of Azov was hit during a broader wave of Ukrainian strikes. Now, whilst that wasn't a fertilizer plant itself, it's important context because it shows Ukraine expanding its targeting beyond traditional military assets into commercial logistics and infrastructure. Then on April the 13th, Ukraine confirmed that it had struck a fertilizer plant in northwest Russia. This was one of the first clear examples of Ukraine directly targeting this sector. And then more recently, on April the 26th, we saw reports that Ukraine had attacked the same fertilizer plant again, the second time in the same month. And that's important because hitting the same facility twice suggests that this is not opportunistic. This is deliberate targeting. This is Ukraine saying, we know this matters and we're going to keep hitting it. So what's going on here? Why is Ukraine targeting fertilizer? Well, to understand that, we need to look at Russia's position in the global fertilizer market. Russia is one of the largest fertilizer producers and also exporters in the world. Estimates vary slightly depending on the type of fertilizer, but broadly speaking, Russia accounts for around 20% of global fertilizer exports. It's a major supplier of nitrogen phosphate and potash-based fertilizers, and it plays a critical role in supplying markets across Europe, Asia and Africa. So this is not a small sector. And interestingly, the sanctions that are applied against Russia don't apply to its fertilizer because that fertilizer is seen as being essential for the global farming industry. So this is strategically important industry, both globally and domestically from Russia's perspective. But it's not just about exports, because fertilizer is also absolutely critical to Russia's own agricultural sector. If you know anything about fertilizer, you'll know that it basically improves your yield. If you add fertilizer to your soil when you're sowing your crops, then you will get more fruit or more grain or whatever it is that you're growing. It helps to enrich the soil, and therefore the plants will grow and produce more of the things that you're looking to harvest. And the reason that fertilizer is really important to Russia is because agriculture in Russia is huge. Russia is one of the world's largest producers and exporters of wheat. In fact, it's often the number one global exporter, but also barley, maize or corn, and sunflower oil. And agriculture plays a key role in supporting domestic food supply, generating export revenues, and stabilizing the economy. Now, all of that relies heavily upon fertilizer because fertilizer is what drives crop yields. So more fertilizer, higher yields equals higher production, equals more surplus, equals more exports, equals more revenue for the Russian economy. So if you disrupt fertilizer production, you're effectively attacking the foundation of agricultural output. And this is where Ukraine's strategy starts to make a lot of sense, because by targeting fertilizer plants, Ukraine is achieving multiple objectives at once. Firstly, it's hitting Russia economically, because it's going to stop those exports. Fertilizer exports generate billions of dollars each year in revenue for Russia. So damaging production capacity reduces export volumes, foreign currency earnings, and overall economic strength for Russia. Secondly, it creates knock-on effects across agriculture. If fertilizer supply is disrupted, farmers may struggle to access sufficient inputs, crop yields will fall, and production will decline. And that has both domestic implications in terms of food production and supply, and international implications in terms of export volumes. Thirdly, and this is really important, it increases the burden on Russia's defence systems, because up until now, Russia has focused a lot of its defensive infrastructure on oil refineries, gas facilities, and key military assets. We've seen things like air defense systems, electronic warfare, even physical nets to stop the drones from hitting the infrastructure being installed around that infrastructure. But you can't protect everything, particularly in a country as large as Russia. And now Ukraine is effectively saying, we're not just going to hit oil and gas, we're going to hit chemicals, fertilizers, industry, logistics. And that forces Russia to spread its defences more thinly, which makes everything more vulnerable. And this brings us to the broader point about drone warfare, because this is a really good example of how Ukraine is adapting to the situation. Ukraine does not have the same level of military spending, equipment, or manpower as Russia. So instead, it's using low-cost drones to create high-impact outcomes. These drones are relatively cheap, easy to deploy, and difficult to intercept at scale. And they allow Ukraine to strike deep inside Russian territory. Some of these drones have travelled over 1,000 miles, target economic infrastructure, and create disruption beyond the battlefield. So this is not just military warfare anymore, this is economic warfare. And from Russia's perspective, this is clearly a problem because it adds another layer of pressure at a time when the economy is already under strain. Sanctions are still in place on the vast majority of Russia's exports, and key revenue streams are being targeted. Now, we've already seen oil and gas infrastructure being hit by Ukraine, refineries being disrupted, and export routes being affected. Some of the ports have also been attacked. Now we can add fertilizer production to that list, which means more disruption, more costs, and more uncertainty from Russia's perspective. So when you step back and look at the bigger picture here, what we're seeing is a strategic shift. Ukraine is expanding its targeting from military to energy and now into broader industry in Russia. And fertilizer is a particularly clever target because it sits right at the intersection of economic output, export revenue, and food production. So the impact is multiplied. So overall, this is clearly a further problem from Russia's perspective. It's another sector that now needs to be defended. It's another source of revenue that's under pressure. And it's another example of how Ukraine is using asymmetric tactics to level the playing field in this war. So I'll keep you posted on any further news and developments as and when they occur. Hopefully you found today's video useful, informative, and most importantly, thought-provoking. If you've liked what I've said, or maybe you didn't like it, but you thought it was interesting, then please give me a thumbs up. Please subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. Don't forget, I'm currently running my competition where you can win my property or a cash alternative prize. There's not that much longer left on the competition, so if you'd like to get involved, it's another way of helping to fund the channel. Please scan the QR code on the screen now or click the link in the description below. I've got some really exciting deals on the go right now as well, so please check those out. You get some free tickets for every ticket that you buy. Thank you also to everyone that supported me in other ways. If you bought me a coffee or sent me YouTube super thanks or signed up as a patron or a member, thank you so much. It really does help to keep me motivated and making as many videos as I can. To be honest, without the members and the patrons, there have been times when I've thought, can I continue? So you're really helping to keep me going.